Hi, and welcome to On and Off, our podcast covering the on-premise and off-premise beverage alcohol industry. I'm Melissa Dowling, editor of Cheers.
And I'm Kyle Swartz, editor of Beverage Dynamics magazine. Today, we're going to talk with Eric Heemer, Senior Vice President of Product Education for Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits, and the new co-host of Southern Glazer's popular industry podcast, Served Up, which Melissa and I have been on at least once, if not twice. I can't remember. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Prove it.
Oh, you got your mug.
There you go. Got some swag. Well, thank you, Kyle, Melissa. Happy to be here. This is important stuff that we're doing, and I can't think of a better use of my time this morning. So let's get into it.
Very kind of you to say. Now, Eric, you're a VP of Product Education. Tell us why education is so important in the industry right now.
Right now, it couldn't be more important than at any time, I think, in recent history. And it's really related to the COVID pandemic. You know, during the pandemic and right afterwards, as you know, a lot of veterans left the restaurant industry and probably the retail industry as well. But, you know, certainly the restaurant industry, we lost sommeliers and servers that had years of experience in wine knowledge and were really good at selling wine to their customers. And unfortunately, a lot of those that filled those vacancies are just in desperate need of wine and spirits knowledge. And I think the same holds true at retail. So my goal is to ensure that Southern Glazer's personnel are equipped with the necessary knowledge they need to educate their customers on wine and how to sell it to their customers. Another reason is that wine sales in the U.S. have been down 4 years running through 2025. It's kind of gloom and doom right now in the industry, and volume has fallen below 300 million 9-liter cases for the first time in almost 20 years. So there's a lot of factors at play here, including the popularity of alternatives such as RTDs and THC products, to name two. But I think the thing that keeps us all up at night is that in general, younger consumers just aren't embracing wine the way that previous generations did. And educating that consumer set on the positive aspects of moderate wine consumption is of utmost importance to the future of the wine industry. You know, there's really too much misinformation circulating on the internet about wine being unhealthy, when in fact, as we know, wine is the most natural of all alcoholic beverages. Most wine's made just from grape juice, yeast, and a little sulfur dioxide to keep the wine free from oxidation and microbial spoilage. So that's the message that we need to be sharing with younger consumers, that wine is in fact likely more healthful than many other products that they're consuming right now. So that's my big concern.
It has become a discussion about health with younger consumers. I was just interviewing the other day the gentleman who's in charge of the alcohol control state agency in Mississippi. I believe he runs their entire tax department, period. I could be wrong. Anyways, I was interviewing their commissioner, and he was saying the exact same thing regarding younger folks. It's just like this idea, it may not be true, but that doesn't mean it hasn't taken hold. In fact, it has taken hold of alcohol being less healthy than other things, cannabis, that are possibly just as unhealthy. And yet there's this notion that we need to battle now in terms of health. It's become such an odd discussion we've had to have, but an important one.
Yeah, there's been a lot of articles recently that were also published, sort of pseudoscientific articles proclaiming that any wine in any amount is, bad for you, that can cause certain diseases like cancer, when we know that that's not true. Decades of research prior to that indicated that moderate wine consumption or moderate alcohol consumption can actually have health benefits. So that's the message we need to keep spreading.
Right. So what are some of the ways that retailers and wholesalers can, not only educate consumers, but also entertain them while they're doing that? Because that's kind of an important way of getting the message across these days.
Yeah, that's a great question, Melissa. And I really think that we are all guilty of keeping wine rather mysterious. And I think the way that we can really break through and capture people's attention is to tell the stories behind the products. You know, where the wine or spirit comes from, the history of the winery or distillery. Some of these producers go back centuries, and there's a rich history behind the story, the people that make the products, where they come from, how they got into the industry. Consumers and trade alike love to hear good stories. So I think that's the real key there, is capture their attention and then entertain them with some great stories about the products they're tasting.
Do you think wine labels are too complicated for younger folks to understand? And I don't mean to sound like offensive to younger folks.
Yeah, we don't want to talk down to anybody. And I think that regardless of the age of the consumer, I think often wine labels can be a little bit confusing
Mm,
or lacking information. I love a
mm,
good back label. I love a good
Mhm.
QR code. And I think especially younger consumers that live with their cell phone attached to their hands love to scan the QR code and read that story, learn about, the people and place behind the product. So I think appellation systems, foreign languages in general are a little bit daunting to English speaking
mm.
consumers. When you see appellation d'origine contrôlée on the label, what's that mean? I can't even pronounce Bourgogne. So, and again, I think it's just simplification, listing the grape variety on the front label. I think the French have sort of addressed that over the past few decades by, okay, you don't have to know anymore that Macon Village is made from Chardonnay. We're going to put Chardonnay right there on the label so you understand that. Most people have some idea of what Chardonnay is like. So, yeah, I definitely think labels are a real key when it comes to attracting consumers.
Do you have any examples of accounts that you thought have done a very good job at educating consumers? And we're big supporters of liquor stores holding tastings, for instance. We're very supportive of tastings and classes and all forms of education. I didn't know if any popped to your mind of an account that was doing a very good job. You don't even have to name them, just an example of what a good job looks like.
Yeah, I think in-store tastings, in-store promotions are a very effective way of introducing people to new products, especially when they're accompanied by some sort of promotion, maybe a discount or some type of merchandise. Everybody loves merch, right? So yeah, there's quite a few, and I think those that are, you know, aggressive, I don't want to say aggressively, but those that are enthusiastically promoting products through in-store tastings are helping the industry sell more product. Definitely.
Tastings lead to sales. We say this all the time. Tastings lead to sales.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially for wines that might be less familiar. I mean, I'm
Mm,
going to walk past somebody tasting your usual California Chardonnay, but if I saw somebody tasting maybe a Northern Rhone red or something, I might stop and take a sip and, buy a bottle. Why
for
not?
sure.
Yeah, I just was at one of the big major liquor stores that they were doing a tasting on champagne and Cremant and something else, and it was I kind of knew what he was saying, but I just wanted to see how he would do, and it was he was really good at it, and definitely sold me on a bottle or two.
Was this a total wine, Melissa?
Never mind, Kyle.
We represent independent retailers. No offense to Total Wine here.
Yeah.
You don't
And
know.
And that raises another good point too. The promotion is only as good as the promoter. So if you got somebody pouring the wine that doesn't have a clue about what they're pouring, that's a bit of a turnoff. I'm sure most people are inquisitive enough to ask questions. Hey, where's it come from? And what kind of food should I serve this with? If I buy a bottle, what's good tonight on my dinner table? That sort of thing. When you get people that are obviously don't know what they're talking about or haven't been educated on the product, I think it almost has a negative effect rather than the intended effect.
Right. So along those lines, what are some of the mistakes that businesses are making when they, attempt to educate customers?
I think you really need to capture your audience's attention, whether you're doing an in-store tasting or a classroom tasting or a wait staff pre-shift tasting. Keep education clear, keep it easy to understand. If you make it too heavy right away, you're going to lose the interest of your audience because at the end of the day, most customers aren't really interested in the climate or the soil or production regulations. They want to know what the wine smells and tastes like, how to serve it, and what to serve it with. Keep it simple. KISS.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. So you're a master sommelier and a master of wine, both very impressive. And I know obviously we've been swirling around this topic the entire time, but just in general, what is your current state, your take on the current state of the wine industry?
Well, I think there's a lot of headwinds blowing. I don't think there's any surprise anymore. 4 years in a row, sales have been down because of many factors, as we mentioned. Competitive products, the sort of health movement that wine might be bad for you. I'm just drinking less. So all of these things are driving wine sales down. There are some bright spots, though, as Melissa just touched on. Sparkling wines from Prosecco through vintage champagne are all doing very well. So people are embracing sparkling wine. I think Prosecco's really helped drive that whole category. Thank you, Prosecco. But Cava, California sparkling wine, whether it's Charmat process or traditional method, I think sparkling wine's really having a moment. And of course, Sauvignon Blanc is really still trending up, and rosé is still being consumed in impressive numbers. One of the big factors, I think, weighing against the industry is the uncertainty of tariffs, which have made things very difficult and expensive for imported wines. There's only so long that you can continue to eat that extra expense without passing it along to the consumer. And we're seeing that prices are going up, and not just, with wine, but the price of coffee. Coffee's almost doubled since this whole thing began. And with the shortage of coffee beans too, it's getting more and more expensive. We might have to just sort of ration ourselves to 1 cup a day, which would be catastrophic.
No.
Asking a couple
But
journalists there, yeah.
I do think on the bright side, I think that the wine industry is cyclical, and I do see sales slowly returning to 2019 pre-COVID numbers. Back when I first started at Southern Glazers long, long ago in 1988, we had three or 4 years in a row of negative growth, but then that was followed by 30 years of positive growth. So the good news is that even though wine sales are down in general, the less but better trend continues. We're seeing growth in premium price categories, and the real negative numbers are down below that in the commodity wine category. So I think it will get better eventually.
I won't tell you where I was in 1988, but I will tell you that I just turned 40, so you can do the math on that. And you brought up something I did want to ask you about. You talked about the cyclical nature of this and the idea. Do you think this doom and gloom with Gen Z, do you think some of their thing is generational? Nobody wants to drink what their parents drank, and a lot of their parents drink wine. Do you think it's a generational thing, a cyclical thing? Just what's your view for, I'm now looking out 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I think it is a generational thing, and it's funny when I think back, back when the legal drinking age was 18, what was I drinking? Was I drinking fine wine? No, I was drinking beer. It's all I could afford, right?
Of course.
And I think that even though Gen Z seems to have less of a predilection right now to embracing wine, I think ultimately it's an aspirational beverage. And I think as younger consumers grow up, make more money, and want to experience some of the finer things in life. I mean, wine is one of those simple pleasures that, we could call it an affordable luxury, like going to Starbucks or whatever, that they will eventually come around to it. And I think, for all the reasons that our generations were a little bit intimidated, there's so many styles and varieties and regions of origin and foreign language on the label. As we mentioned, make it easy to understand. And by spreading the word that wine is meant to be enjoyed with food, family, and friends. Are you familiar with the Come Over October campaign?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the whole idea behind that is to, sort of fight some of this negativity about wine and remind people that wine is meant to be enjoyed with food, family, friends, neighbors. So invite your neighbor, invite your family to come over in October and share a bottle of wine around the table with some good food and good laughter. And it's, as they say, wine and laughter are both great medicine. So
Boy,
I
I
think
like
that's
that much more than dry January.
Yeah, I think we all do. Come over October. And it
good.
sort of was the sober October, sort of the response to the sober October movement. Has
We're
come
getting
on.
sober in October now too. How many months do we need with no drinking?
Yeah, right. Well, I suppose that was just because you're not going to be sober in November and December as the holidays kick in.
Fair point.
It really almost encourages people to go extra crazy for those 2 months before
I think
dry January comes up.
I think it does. I mean, I see people's posts online about, oh, I'm doing dry January, and I can't wait for it to be over so I can get back into my normal
So I can
lifestyle.
double down
This is what I
in
keep
February.
saying. And why are we torturing ourselves? Like I say, let's just do no sleep September. Listen, if we're just going to do things that make us feel miserable, like don't brush your teeth for all of August. How about that? Let's just get rid of things that keep us going.
Exactly. Life is uncertain as it is enough right now, so might as well enjoy those simple pleasures. And I think Robert Mondavi really said it best. If you're familiar, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s. Yes, and I know Kyle about how old you are. And you too, Melissa, you probably don't remember this, but Robert Mondavi had a mission statement, and it went like this: Wine has been with us since the beginning of civilization. It's the temperate, civilized, sacred, romantic mealtime beverage recommended in the Bible. Wine has been praised for centuries by statesmen, philosophers, poets, and scholars. Wine in moderation is an integral part of our culture, heritage, and gracious way of life. And that was on the back label of Robert Mondavi wines for several years until I think the BATF decided it was not appropriate for bottles of wine.
Beautifully
Good old
said.
BATF or TTB now. But anyway, that really sums it up. I mean, wine is not meant to be, binged upon. Wine is meant to be consumed with food, with friends and with family, and that's the whole nexus of the Come Over October campaign.
Right. It reminds me of that that thing that some Wall Street Journal wine writers had about open that bottle night. And I
Oh yeah,
forget when
yeah,
it was, like I think in the winter, some random day, but they're just saying, don't just sit on that special bottle and wait for a time. Open it tonight, So I just thought that was so interesting to kind of take the um I don't know, pretentiousness out of it, or that notion that you have to save it for something.
yeah. It's true. It'd be nice if your grandfather had laid down a cellar for you, and then you could enjoy, the wine at all stages of its life. But most of us don't have that that particular luxury.
He
So,
did not, no.
that's funny.
Do you have any recommendations for how alcohol businesses can ride out this challenging time?
Yeah, I I do, and I think a lot of it is just fairly simple. I think at each tier of the industry, whether you're a producer, a retailer, or a restaurant, you can focus on more targeted marketing, offer some price reductions and promotion. Same thing as doing in-store tastings, with the aim of gaining new customers. I think one of the primary reasons that younger consumers aren't ordering wine in restaurants is they're too expensive. The pricing is so high, they're not going to pay $15 or $17 for a glass of wine when maybe a cocktail offers more bang for the buck, or they just aren't going to drink at all. Even beer is getting egregiously expensive. And often the price of a single glass of wine covers the wholesale cost of the entire bottle. So I think pricing is just out of control, and that restaurants would sell a lot more wine just by lowering the price a little bit.
Yeah, well said.
I like the idea of offering smaller pours at a lower price, maybe a 3 ounce pour at $6 or something like that. You're still making a healthy profit, but this would entice consumers to try new wines, especially wines that they're not familiar with, or even spirits for that matter. Wine flights, I think, are a great way to do that too, and help promote product in this challenging time, especially for younger consumers on a budget.
Yeah, I'm nodding heavily over here because I'm agreeing completely with everything you're saying, especially smaller formats. We're seeing those succeed at the off-premise level right now. You're seeing the 375 ml bottle really taking off in spirits. So I think you're totally right. I think a lot of younger consumers, and I do think it's a money issue more than a marketing issue with a lot of younger consumers. We've said that a lot on this podcast, so I won't do my spiel again, but I totally agree that I think it's a money issue, but the smaller formats allows them to experiment. Everyone wants to experiment. Everyone wants to drink through and try new categories. But like you said, when they can't really afford it at the larger formats, if you just bring it down a little bit, smaller formats really seem to be taking off right now.
Yes,
Well,
it's very
it
true.
also, excuse me, it also speaks to the moderation trend.
Mm.
They don't want to drink that much, and if you're on premise, and if you're driving or something, you can't. But you may just want a little bit of wine with your dinner or to taste something. I That was one of our trends, our beverage trends for this year, and something they were doing a lot in Europe with different pour sizes. Many different pour sizes, which could probably get confusing, but as you say, you can probably sell a lot more wine.
Yeah, I'm convinced of it, especially wines that are unfamiliar. If you've never heard of Vermentino, are you going to splash out $17 to try 5 ounces of Vermentino? Maybe not, but you might are much more likely to do so if you had a 3 ounce pour at $7 or $8, something like that. So it's a great way to introduce all consumers, young, middle, old, to new types of wine and new styles of wine. And yeah, that's one of the beautiful things about the world of wine. There's so much out there. There's so many great wines that are still waiting to be discovered by most consumers. And this is a great way to do it. We always at Southern Glazers, we built business on premise. People would try a glass of wine and say, "Wow, I love that. I want to buy that at retail and have that at home." So, we're very fond of saying that brands are built on premise. And I think, the industry needs to be focusing on that message a little bit more.
So what's an underrated wine region right now?
Boy, there's a lot of them. The one that really jumps out to me are white and red wines from the south of France, from Languedoc and from Provence, because these are among the world's oldest winemaking regions. And of course, they're best known for rosé, and rightfully so. We're selling oceans of rosé wine from both of those regions. But there's other great wines like white wines from grapes like Vermentino, as I mentioned, or Picpoul, some of the Grenache Syrah-based red blends. They're delicious and they're affordable too. Compare the cost of a great bottle from an appellation in the Languedoc, like Minervois, for example, at $40 retail to a $100 retail bottle of wine from a better known region. I mean, there's great value. There's ample sunshine. They make beautiful, ripe, full-bodied, delicious white and red wines, as well as rosé. So that's one of the regions that I'm keen on at this point in time.
Absolutely. And now, for somebody who's considering becoming a master somm or a master of wine, like yourself, what advice would you give to them?
Don't do it. No, just just kidding. Don't do it at the same time. Definitely not. And some people are ambitious. They say, "I'm going to jump into both of these programs." They quickly realize it's impossible, as the French would say. So first, I would congratulate them for considering these challenging programs because they are indeed challenging. And then I would advise them to be prepared for a long, long road ahead. Be willing to forego almost all other pursuits while you're on that road. Give it everything you've got. Stay patient and determined because failure usually comes before success. I can speak from personal experience in that matter for both programs. And even if they don't achieve the ultimate goal of becoming a master sommelier or a master of wine, the massive amount of knowledge that you gain on the journey is worth the effort. The old saying is true, the destination is great, but so is the journey. So that's a quick advice I would give to people. Just go for it, be prepared that you know what's coming next, and just keep on trying until you achieve success.
Excellent advice.
So I think we probably have time for one more question or topic. I wanted to get your take on the low alcohol and zero alcohol wines because it is with some of the bigger brands, that's really what is selling now, and everyone is coming out with a low or no alcohol version. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great alternative for people that are minding their calorie intake or minding their alcohol intake or both, and usually they go hand in hand. And I think low alcohol wine has been with us for quite a while, as has no alcohol wine. But recently, no alcohol wine is really trending up, whereas low alcohol wine is sort of struggling along. I think people are either, if I'm going to drink a wine with alcohol, I'd rather just drink a regular wine with 12 or 13% alcohol. But no alcohol wines, I think, are really trending up because of that whole healthful movement, and it gives people, a little taste of the wine. I think a lot of it is just, the social aspect of holding a glass in your hands and sipping something while your friends are doing the same, but with no alcohol. And I have to say that the quality of the product generally is much, much higher than it was 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. And there's a lot of good products in the market now. Sparkling wines, rosé, red, white. I think red is probably the most problematic because people miss that body, the texture that you get in a fully alcoholized wine. But it's coming along. I've had some that are very good. So I think the future is bright for this product. And it's sort of a category expander that can allow producers to continue to sell wine at high volume, but also give a whole brand new consumer set what they want as well. So I think it's here to stay and it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, we completely agree. And Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. Where can people find your podcast, Served Up?
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Served Up can be found anywhere you usually listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, well, however you get your podcasts. So please check it out. Give us a like, give us a share. We really appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you out there for listening to On and Off. Join us next time when we'll be talking about yet another fascinating topic in the beverage alcohol industry. Cheers.
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 If you enjoyed the On and Off podcast, please hit the subscribe button. Also, you can find more great content at cheersonline.com and beveragedynamics.com, including recipes, product reviews, and interviews with the movers and shakers of the beverage alcohol industry. You can also sign up for our free weekly e-newsletters for both publications on our websites. Cheers!